In this video, I'm going to show you my top 5 favourite real food cookbooks. So these are kind of like my best friends in the kitchen, and I love all of these books for different reasons. So I've chosen some books because they're just kind of like my go-to and I use them all of the time, or some books because they feature fermentation or specialty ingredients. I think it's really nice to have different books for different things. If you're new here, I'm Lucia and welcome to Ambrosia's Table. I make videos that help you to eat a nutrient-dense whole food diet and to eat in tune with your cycle. While in general I don't really follow recipes that well, I'm definitely a big believer in experimenting in the kitchen, and I actually recommend having like a little notebook that you keep with you in the kitchen, so when you're making different recipes you can kind of just jot down what you're doing and then you can develop recipes on the go like that, so then you'll know, how to tweak them the next time you make them. Recipe books are important because they kind of give you the confidence to start to get into cooking, but the more you play with different recipe books and the more you experiment on your own and the more you develop your own recipes, then what starts to happen is you get more confident and you will find that you can just make something and it will work the first time. It just means you save a lot of time in the kitchen because you're not having to stop every step. Okay, so I need 200 mils of X, Y, and Z, and then it just really speeds up the cooking process and it makes it a lot more enjoyable when you have that confidence and when you can just sort of cook without relying on a recipe. Without further ado, let's get into it. So my number one, you probably know this if you follow me on Instagram. So here we go. Life-Changing Food. This is kind of like the Bible of real food cookbooks. I love this book for so many reasons. I feel like it has some really fun recipes that you can play around with, when you've got time on the weekend, but it also has sort of like the staples that we'll be making on a regular basis. So things like coconut milk or ghee and all of those things. So if you are completely new to real food cooking, I definitely think that this is a good sort of all-rounder. It's particularly good if you are gluten-free, grain-free, nut-free, egg-free, or even doing the GAPS diet or paleo as well.
Some of my favourite recipes from this book are probably the cardamom tart, the grain-free dough, and the nutty chocolate, but they're all delicious. If you like these kind of videos about books, I was thinking about doing one about my favourite health books, so comment below if you like that idea, as well as letting me know any cookbooks that you recommend, because I'm always on the lookout for more because I am addicted.
I think one of the things that I love most about this book is that they use all the same ingredients that I have in my pantry, so we're really on the same page when it comes to food, and that just makes it so easy that I don't have to go out and buy different ingredients. I just know that if I've got the basic whole food ingredients, that I'll be able to make all of these recipes. Okay, so number 2 on the list is Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. So this is Samin Nosrat's book, she actually did that Netflix documentary. I don't know if you remember it, but it's really amazing. She's a fantastic cook, and the thing that I love about this book is it's not actually your typical cookbook. While it does have recipes in there, it sort of speaks to what I was saying before about learning processes over recipes. So she really is writing a book about how to learn how to cook. So I think she goes through those foundational things, like how she breaks it down, obviously salt, fat, acid, and heat, and she talks about all of the different ways that you can incorporate that element and how these, she believes, are the things that make good cooking. Okay, so here's an example of something simple. So here's how to cook an egg. So it just sort of talks about how long you want to be boiling your egg for to get different textures. So it's kind of simple stuff, but really I feel like it's the skills that you need to be able to be creative with cooking, and then to be able to get to that state that I was talking about where you're not sort of bound to the recipe book and cooking just becomes this really frustrating process. In general, I think she's just an incredible cook and super inspirational nutritional, so all of the recipes in here are really tasty as well. The next one is Ferment for Good. So this one is a book about fermentation. So the kimchi recipe that I make is from this book. Sharon Flynn is just so awesome. She's such an inspiration, and the book is kind of like a little bit of a story. So I love that you can go through and you can hear how fermentation has really changed and shaped her life. It has beautiful pictures as well as great information. I just like her attitude. Like, she's relatively relaxed and she makes you feel safe to experiment with fermentation, even if you're brand new to it. But she also has quite a lot of complexity, so if you aren't brand new to it, you could really like progress with this book. You could go as far as you want to go. So Michael Pollan has said that fermentation is one of the main differences between the standard Australian diet or standard American diet and that of successful traditional diets of the past. So I think if we can start to incorporate more fermented food by learning how to do it at home, that it's going to have an incredible effect on our health, and it will also be a lot more affordable, because obviously proper fermented foods that you buy in the shops are quite expensive because they're not that easy to make in bulk. I think it's worth your time to learn how to ferment at home and starting simple and progressing up. Okay, so next up I've got Grown and Gathered. So this is such a great book. We find ourselves using a lot of these recipes. This will be a really good all-rounder because there's so much information in here, especially about growing your own food. So it's broken into a couple of different categories. So you've got observe, grow, gather, nurture, trade, and seek. So it's more than just a recipe book. However, it does have really great recipes, and we've found it really helpful when it comes to sort of growing your own garden and kind of like the basics of permaculture. Of course, it has beautiful pictures and they just seem like really nice people. There's a lot of gluten-free options, however, not all of it's gluten-free. Again, this is one of those ones that's got some kind of simple recipes and sort of some more complex ones. So, which is what I like, because I think it's nice to be able to cook for fun sometimes and stretch your boundaries, but it's also nice to be able to take the stress out and just make easy stuff when you need to. So they talk about making ricotta and paneer, like making passata in bulk and things like that, making your own bacon. So it's worth a mention, their second book I also have, ta-da! So that's called The Village. And this book's really great as well. So they've actually gone to Italy, and so it's really inspired by European cooking. So while the Lifechanging Food Cookbook is more on the grain-free side of things, these guys are more on the slightly more towards the vegetarian end of the spectrum. They probably have a heavier focus on grain than I normally do in my diet, but they have like a really good ethos with it, and they have like a really amazing variety of grain, and yeah, still plenty of good options if you are gluten-free or don't eat legumes. So their second book still has a focus on natural gardening, so it just has a bit of information about that, but it definitely has more recipes than their first book. They have a really good gluten-free gnocchi in here, which I definitely recommend making. I love that they've got some things that are a bit out of the ordinary, like how to preserve your own sardines or things like that that are kind of more traditional cooking techniques. They're really veggie heavy, which is really nice, and it's always inspiring to find new ways of eating vegetables. So those are my top 5 favourite books in no particular order. However, the winner, if I had to choose one, would have to be Lifechanging Food Cookbook. I've got a couple of bonus ones that I feel are worth mentioning. If you are vegetarian, I love Sarah Britton from My New Roots. This book is completely plant-based, and she has a second book out as well. I really like her type of food that she creates, and it does also have a focus on seasonal cooking. I don't tend to eat from it that much just because we have a little bit of a different way of cooking and eating. If you are vegetarian, then you'll definitely love this one. Okay, also on the worth a mention list is the whole fish cookbook. This guy, Josh Nealand, he's amazing. He is kind of revolutionizing how people eat fish. So basically treating the fish like you would treat actual meat from a land animal. So aging the meat and curing it and treating it in a really kind of new way. And also by the name you can tell he's also using all the different parts of the fish and making really interesting recipes. So I think this one's more of like an inspirational one, definitely not for your everyday cook, because my partner Marcus is into spearfishing. We have an abundance of fish, which I'm so grateful for, which means, yeah, it's definitely something that's worthwhile for us to be able to use the whole fish in different ways. I'll give you a couple of examples of some of the recipes. So he's got fish black pudding, fried scales sweet and savoury, poached fish, native Australian fish curry, swordfish bacon and egg English muffin, barbecue whole flat fish essentials. So I think basically if you're wanting to get into cooking fish, this would be a really good book. The lucky last mention is an ebook by Geordie Pye. So she's incredible and I just got it, so I can't really say that much about it, but it's just nice to remember that ebooks are an option because they're often a lot cheaper than actual physical cookbooks. So Geordie Pye's cookbook that I've got here is called Just Desserts. Great thing about Geordie's recipes, like the Lifechanging Food cookbook, we use all of the same ingredients to cook with. So yeah, it just feels really natural to make her recipes because it's exactly the kind of cooking that I would be doing otherwise, but I don't have to do the recipe development. I can just make it and I know that it works and I know that it's going to taste good. I'll just read through a couple of the things that she's got in here to give you a little bit of a taste. The lemon curd gummies, so I've heard lots about those and I'm really excited to give those a try. As well as she's got chocolate custard tart, easy lemon squares, healthy hazelnut Ferrero Rochers, wagon wheel bars, coconut vanilla custard, homemade chocolate yogo. So all like really decadent, delicious desserts, but a lot of them are sugar-free. Most of them are dairy-free, if not all, as well as gluten-free and grain-free and keto options as well. She definitely caters for a lot of different dietary requirements. All right, lovelies, that's it for this video. I hope that you got inspired by some of these yummy cookbooks and you're going to get a little notebook and start making some recipes of your own soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And you can go stalk me on Instagram where you can see what I'm up to on holiday because I'm going to take the next week off. I'm going to hang out with my family and go on a boat up in Queensland. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the video that I made last week where I interviewed Claire Baker, who is a period coach. And we chatted about how you can use your menstrual cycle actually as a tool to optimize your life. So that was a really interesting chat. So I recommend looking at that one. See you later.